Howdy, welcome back to me reviewing and tier listing STPs. Today I'll be tier listing the XL Freely Uncut version by Trans Guy Supply. Just like always, I'll be ranking this STP off of 5 different criteria. The first one's going to be looks and realism. Will I get any weird looks if I use this at a urinal? The next one's going to be comfort and packability. Will it look or feel like I have a boner? Next one is going to be STP function and learning curve. Is it going to be something I can use in a reasonable amount of time, or am I going to get frustrated and toss it in the trash? Next one is going to be pricing. Will I be broke if I buy this STP? Yes or no? And my last one will be my overall ranking of the STP and would I recommend it to people. A little FYI for you, I will not be covering the play function of this prosthetic, because personally I feel like once you have a 3-in-1 that does pack, play, and pee, one of those functions is going to suffer. Before we actually get started, I'd like to point out that any STPs that I have purchased have been bought with my own money. No company has sent me these for free, and nobody's given me money to review these, so they'll all be my own honest opinions. And just keep in mind, something that works for me may not necessarily work for you, because everybody's going to have different body types and different anatomies, so just keep that in mind as you're watching this. Before we actually get onto the review portion of the video, what I'm about to show you is going to be a prosthetic that looks like a penis. If this bothers you, please feel free to click off. Thank you for watching for as long as you did, and have a good one. Alright, here is the Freely XL Uncut version. We'll wrap around for you so you can see it. Let me get up close to the camera so you can see some of this nice detailing. This comes in the color C3. The size specs on this are going to be shaft length from the top is 4.75 inches or about 12 centimeters. From the bottom, it's going to be 4.25 inches or about 10.79 centimeters. The cup inner length is going to be about 3 inches or 7.6 centimeters. The outer cup length is going to be 4 inches or 10 centimeters. The shaft circumference is 3.5 inches or 8.8 centimeters. And the weight of this is 7.3 ounces or 209 grams, I believe. And because I'm sick of saying that that's around the weight of a hamster, the way you could also think about this is when I looked it up, it said that this is about 4 frosted cinnamon Pop-Tarts. But they have to be the frosted one. The cost of the Freely XL is $50 plus an additional $16 USD if you decide to get the erection rod with it. The normal cost for the original Freely is $45 USD, and they also have an upgraded version of the original Freely in the cut version that's painted and a little bit more realistic for $65 USD. For my pricing tier, I would have to say that this prosthetic is one of the most affordable ones I've seen so far, especially for it being 100% silicone and making it really body safe. Even with the more expensive painted option, it's still pretty affordable for only being $65 USD. I would have to put this in the bargain tier. So when I received the Freely XL, it came to me in a bag, and inside the actual bag was the branded box, and inside the branded box it had the STP inside and a resealable Ziploc bag kind of deal, which has their branding on it. Super cool, overall super nice. I liked the fact that even though it came in its own packaging bag, it still had the branded box to help protect it and maybe hide the shape from other people if you're a bit shy about that. A little side note, I would say that I had some issues receiving products from the company, not the STP itself, but I did have issues getting some STP underwear that I use. But I'm not bringing this up to badmouth the company, quite the opposite actually. They're in the middle of moving their company to a new location because they're growing, which is really cool. But what I wanted to point out is how great the customer service has been. I've been having multiple emails back and forth with their customer representative who's been super cool, super helpful, and even though I got sent the wrong STP underwear twice, they still let me keep the underwear that I got on accident for free, and they're still going to send me the other underwear that I did order. They're still trying to figure it out, but overall, the customer service that I've received from them is immaculate. So onto my actual first impressions of the STP Freely XL. I was actually really surprised by how soft the silicone feels. I had a friend come over and feel it, and the way he described it is like almost like a velveted silicone sensation. It's super soft and smooth to the touch, and there's no tugging or anything. I wouldn't say there's any tackiness either, so you wouldn't really need to cornstarch this. My theory as to how they got this super soft texture is the actual molding process, because on the inside it has a more smooth, stereotypical silicone feel. So I think the mold that they have is brushed with this texture or something like that, and that's how they actually get it this soft, which is actually really cool. Something I want to point out too is that this no spill lip is also that same soft texture that I really like, and that silicone feeling only really begins on the inside of the cup. And while I really do like the feeling of this prosthetic, something that kind of threw me off is how thick this silicone is. Like, feeling the walls, you can definitely feel how thick it is. Even though it's still really squishy here, very stretchy, I would describe it as being sturdy, which actually bodes well for the actual STPing function when we get to that. But overall, it feels quite nice. You particularly notice the thickness of the silicone around the balls, because it's not like 3D balls, but the balls are smaller, which is really nice for packing, and around the head itself, because this entire head is extra silicone, so you can feel how thick it gets up here. I would say the color match on this is pretty good. It does have a good amount of yellow undertone in it, which is what I look for in an STP. It also has some really nice vein detailing, very prominent. I'd say like this has a very prominent vein detailing, a very prominent head. It does have that half cut, half uncut head that I'm not the biggest fan of, but it does have an actual slit hole for the exit hole, which is really nice. And again, the balls have a very prominent seam, and they're a lot flatter and smaller, which is actually really nice, especially because this being the XL, you're not going to have as much room if you had the original Freely. Overall, the look of this prosthetic is really good. I like the details they decide to put in, and again, I love this really soft texture. But the version I bought, because it's not painted in any way, I would have to either put this in a low alright or high little sus category for being only one solid color. I think this is going to go into a little sus, because if someone saw this at the urinal, they might be a little thrown off by the one color thing. But again, they do sell a painted version, just not in the model I wanted in particular. I would also like to point out that nobody's really going to be looking at your wiener when you're at the urinal. I asked a bunch of my cis guy friends if anybody looks, and they said no, you're not really supposed to anyway. Onto the actual STP function and learning curve of the Freely, I'd have to say it's just okay. For the actual learning curve, it's not too bad, because this cup is so sturdy and thinner in this direction. I found that even with larger thighs, it didn't collapse as easily as some other ones, and this no spill lip is so flat and wide, you're able to get a really good seal against yourself, to the point that I could actually sometimes suction it if I squeezed here while it was pressed against me. And again, this very straight design allows you to have some distance between yourself and the toilet, but its main downfall is how weak the pee flow stream is on this. I had to stop and start multiple times to allow the cup to actually drain out, or else I would overfill it. So here I am doing my normal flow test. Here's the 250 milliliters. You can actually see it start to pop up over the center, where it starts to overflow a little bit, and you kind of need to either lighten up on your stream or let it drain for a little bit. In this 400 milliliters test, you can really see where I have to stop and actually let it drain out a little bit. If you look at the flow itself, it's decent, but you do notice a bit of a delay between the cup being filled and how long it takes for it to be fully empty, or empty enough for me to be able to add any more fluid to the cup. When doing the max capacity test for the Freely, I found that I could only do around 75 milliliters. When you compare that to the low end of how much you're normally peeing at 250 milliliters, I could definitely see why this would back up more easily. For the STP and learning curve tier, I would have to put this in the need practice tier. The actual positioning of the cup and getting a good seal with it is actually pretty good. It's actually really amazing. But you need to be able to practice with it to be able to know how long you can pee with it before you need to stop your flow. I would also be careful if you have a very powerful stream or you have a very full bladder when you're using this. I think this would almost be good for a learning STP to learn how to use your Kegel muscles to start and stop your flow on command. So for the comfort and packability, this is called the XL for a reason. It packs fairly large, especially in looser fitting underwear, and because the silicone is so thick and sturdy, it wants to stay in this position, and if you're wearing looser fitting clothes, it had a tendency to wander. So it was like going down one of the side of my legs, it was sideways, it looked like I have a boner. Not good overall for that. But if you're wearing tighter fitting underwear or even the STP packing strap that's from Trans Guy Supplies, I found that it helped the bulge not be as prominent, compressed well, and actually kept it in place. For comfort, I would say it's fairly okay. I was aware that it was there because it's so large and takes up so much space in your pants, or because I was wearing tighter underwear to keep it in place. But this actual silicone was super nice to the touch, and it never tugged on my hair or skin in any way. I would also say that because this cup is smaller this direction and doesn't go very far back between your legs, it also helps with comfortability if you have bigger legs like I do. For my comfort and packability tier, I would have to put the XL Freely in It's Alright. Initially, I found it very comfortable when wearing it with boxer brief STP underwear, but it had a tendency to wander off in my pants and create a large bulge. Wearing tighter fitting packing straps or underwear mitigated it from wandering around and going sideways, but it also made it not as comfortable because it was held so securely against my body. But if you're someone who likes to pack big, then I think this would be a good option for you. So, what are my final thoughts on the Freely XL? Well, I think for $50, this is a pretty good budget STP. It's body safe because it's 100% silicone, and it's fairly comfortable, but it does pack quite large, and if that's what you're looking for, this would be great. Its lack of realism hurts it in some categories, but I think its biggest downfall is the fact that the flow rate on this is so low. If this could flow a bit better when peeing, I think this would be a great STP for beginners, but unless you know how to control your Kegel muscles, I wouldn't recommend this. For my overall ranking and would I recommend this STP, I would have to put this in worth a try category, simply for the fact that it's a lower cost STP, so it'd be great for someone who doesn't know anything about STPs to try out and see what their body needs. But because of the fact that it has such a low flow rate on its peeing, I find that some people are going to get frustrated with it, and they might not be able to have the capability to learn how to use their Kegel muscles effectively to stop and start their pee flow. In the end, I think it comes down to whether or not you're willing to put up with some of the learning curve of it for its price point, and whether or not you could deal with how large it packs. So that was my review and tier listing of the XL Freely Uncut version. I hope that you found this video informative, entertaining. I hope it gave you some insight on this prosthetic. If you have any questions about this particular prosthetic, or any recommendations for ones I should review in the future, please let me know. Have a good one. A little shout out to my friend who did the background music for this video. His name is Stereotype on Spotify and SoundCloud. I'll leave a link in the description below where you can find him. And I hope you like his music as much as I did. I mean, I guess they call it the XL for a reason.